Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Crazy news here, always if true. Remember, this piece of information comes from the New Voice of Ukraine. So that's obviously a Ukrainian media outlet. But from October 5, 2022, this is the title. Russian defenses collapse in northern Kherson Oblast while Ukrainians push ahead in Luhansk, said Institute of Study of War. In Kherson Oblast, Ukrainian troops liberated several settlements on the eastern bank of the Inhulets River along the T-2207 highway, forcing Russian troops to retreat south towards Kherson. ISW analysis says. Ukrainian forces also continued to push south along the Dnipro River and T-0403, cutting two Russian ground lines of communication in the north of Kherson Oblast and pushing the Russians south of the Kherson-Dnipropetrovsk border into the Borislav area. At the same time, the armed forces of Ukraine are making efforts to prevent Russian attempts to transfer additional ammunition, reserves, mobilized military personnel and protective equipment to forward positions. Holding the position on the eastern left bank of the Inhulets River and on the right bank of the Kakhovka Reservoir will allow Ukrainian forces to significantly push back Russian troops to the east towards the Dnipro and push them south towards Kherson and the Borislav Novaya Kakhovka region. The ISW writes, summarizing fears of Russian military bloggers covering the conflict. Institute of Study of War specialists are also analyzing the data of one of these military correspondents and quote, according to whom 500 people are required for the defense of a 20-kilometer front line at a rate of approximately 20 meters per person. So that's about 22 yards. That's about, and then but due to the understaffing of Russian battalions, the ratio is 1 soldier per 60 meters instead of 1 per 20. 6 meter front line in the North Kherson Oblast. So they have shortages of personnel. This fact, along with effective Ukrainian offensive operations, partially explains the rapid pace of the collapse of the Russian army in this sector, ISW notes. So the Russians are running out of people? Oh well, if they say so. In Kharkiv and Luhansk oblasts, the armed forces of Ukraine continued their offensive east of the Oxil River. According to Russian sources, fighting continues in the areas of the R-66 Svatovo-Kremenaya highway in Luhansk Oblast. Ukrainian troops entered the village of Bohuslavka and Borovska Adrivka, 30 kilometers west of Svatovo. These successes, along with other, I'm quoting, other offensives of the armed forces of Ukraine on the eastern bank of the Oxil River, essentially deprived the Russian forces of the opportunity to use the river as a line of defense, says ISW analysts, adding that the Kharkiv front has now actually become Luhansk front, which even Russian military correspondents admit. Meanwhile, the mobilization announced by Russian dictator Vladimir Putin so far has a more significant short-term impact on the internal situation in Russia than on the course of the war in Ukraine, they say. The ISW explained that the mobilization period coincided with new Russian failures at the front, which has only exacerbated discord in the Russian information space, undermining Putin's narratives as well. Well, and it says also that Ukrainian sources correctly point out that partial mobilization doesn't pose a serious threat in the short term, since the Ukrainian counteroffensive is moving faster than mobilization can have an effect, the Institute's experts emphasize. Yeah, but once they are ready, what's going to happen? You have to defend, right? Well, we're going to get that one too. For now, Putin is clearly failing to manage the balance of power and the competing demands of Russian nationalists who have become increasingly militant since mobilization began, although they share Putin's common goals and objectives regarding the war in Ukraine. The Russian dictator needs to maintain the support of at least three main factions in the current Russian nationalist information space, according to the Institute. Military bloggers and military correspondents who present Putin's views on the invasion of Ukraine to a pro-military audience, both in Russia and in puppet quasi-republics. Second one, the veteran community. Former Russian officers and veterans who help organize and conduct campaigns to recruit new forces. And the third one, Russian security forces of Siloviki, who provide the combat power of the Russian army on the battlefield. It includes groups led by Chechen warlord and Putin vassal. They talk about vassals, the Ukrainians. You gotta be kidding. Ramzan Kadyrov and Wagner mercenary company owner Yevgeny Prigozhin in this list. Well, full mouth of information here. So, according to the Ukrainians, they're kicking ass over there. Okay, the Russians are in disarray. They're running, going under and hide under their mommy's skirts, right? Okay. Now, what if this, as I said, there are three in my. I can see more than three, but I think it's three options. One, the Ukrainians are so good that they are kicking ass. Second, the Russians are that bad that they are running back home because they're cowards and are weakling. You know what I mean? Bad. And the third one could be obviously both. And let's make the fourth one, which I think could be the main one. And this is just a scenario. Obviously, the Russians allow them to come over so they can say, well, you are on our territory. We can use any means necessary to blow you up. You would say, well, why would they do that? To save lives. Remember Truman, with the Harry Truman, the former US president, to save lives, bombed two Japanese cities. Here, save those conscripts' lives, going over there and have more losses, because you're gonna have losses, obviously, and that's gonna show bad back home. So then, stay here, make a big front here. You're gonna stop them here, and these guys are gonna be on your territory. On what's on your territory that you voted and you signed and you shook hands. You know what I mean? On that territory you consider your country. You're gonna use any means necessary. You're gonna give them an ultimatum. These guys are not gonna hear and not gonna agree with it. And you can use your weapons, saving your people's life, killing the poor Ukrainians at the orders of foreign people, foreigners. Anyway, who I don't think they have Ukrainian nation's interest at heart. That's an assessment. So we'll find out pretty soon what's going to happen here, because I think Putin, I know Putin already signed the legality of those 4 territories to be part of Russia. Now legally by the Russian law, it's there, so it's legal, it's law, turned into law with the Putin's final signature. So that means that is Russian territory. I'm waiting to see what move will Russia do next. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.